One thing about me is that I love celebrity news. I love learning the 411 of Hollywood. I love the gossip, the drama, just enthralling feeling of knowing what these elite people are up to. So it's while I was doing my little Hollywood research where I came across this wild ass headline. Taylor Swift's stalker arrived at her home in Nashville and threatened to blow up her home. What the Apparently, this man who's obsessed with Taylor flew from Long Beach to Tennessee. He broke into her home and then he was just waiting for her to arrive. Luckily, he was caught before she got home, and luckily, he was banned from attending her concert. He was caught, he was charged, the works. But the fact that he was even able to get that close in the first place is alarming. I went down the rabbit hole, found all these celebrity stalking stories, and it's here where I thought about the 1997 psychological anime thriller Perfect Blue. Perfect Blue is made by Satoshi Kon in 1997, and it follows a pop idol named Mima, who is transitioning in her career from being a pop idol to an actress. But when an obsessed fan starts stalking her and people near her are getting brutally murdered, Mima begins to wonder if it's her who's committing these murders and just doesn't know it because she's suffering a mental break, or if she's really in danger. Little does she know that she does have a stalker who's completely obsessed with her, and they're not too happy about her career change. This person has convinced themselves that the person who wants to be an actress, the Mima who wants to transition careers, isn't Mima at all. They think that Mima is an imposter who's determined on ruining Mima's pop idol image. And so this person does whatever it takes to get their favorite idol back, even if they have to kill for it. Now, just like what's happening with Taylor Swift and all throughout pop culture, this film focuses on stalking, on loss of identity, invasion of privacy. It focuses on what's booming right now, being stan culture, and how fans can become dangerously obsessed with these people that they idolize. And so, without further ado, let's get into Perfect Blue. So the film starts off with Mima, who is part of a Japanese pop idol group named Sham. And so Mima is a little nervous because she's about to go on stage to perform her final performance as a pop idol. Sham has been a group for 2.5 years, and over those 2.5 years, they've built a very eager fan base of men who are completely obsessed with Mima, who is the lead singer of this group. So it's no surprise that most of the men in the audience, if not all, are there to see Mima. But Mima had plans for transitioning out of being a pop idol. Mima had plans to become an actress, and her first gig was going to be a reoccurring role on the crime drama series known as Double Bind. Mima only had a small role, but her agent, Mr. Chirokoro, promised that it would be worth it because apparently being an idol wasn't making enough money and all the money was in acting. But her manager, Rumi, who used to be a pop idol in the past, disagrees. She thinks that being a pop idol is the elite stardom in performance culture. She thinks Mima should not quit. She thinks that Mima should continue being a pop idol. She tries to reason with Mima here and there, saying like, oh, you came to Tokyo specifically to become a pop idol. You took all those lessons, you spent all that money to become a pop idol, don't quit now. But Mima wants a change in career, or so she says. And so she's ready to hang up her pink frilly pop idol uniform to become an actress. She knew it was going to be a hard transition, but Mima was willing to put the work in to become as good of an actress as she can become. She was willing to make this career thrive. Mima had no idea how much of a toll this transitioning career would take on her fans, especially for one of the security guards at her show. You see, this security guard was obsessed with Mima. He was in love with her. And while she performed her last performance, he put his hand out like this and envisioned her in the palm of his hands. And he just wanted to grasp her and hold her forever. So when a group of rowdy guys start causing a commotion at Mima's last concert, he gets pissed. He tries to break it up. The guys punch him in the face. But eventually, these guys, these rowdy guys, do get kicked out of the concert. Unfortunately, because of the fight they started, it ruined Mima's farewell speech, and for Mima, this fight, this violence, this act of obsession confirmed for her that this was it. She no longer wanted to be an idol. She was ready to pack up her little tutu and get the fuck out of here. When Mima heads home, we're introduced to the dualities of her life. There's Mima the pop idol, the one who performs on stage, the one who signs autographs for her fans, the one who looks down to the audience in adoration at her fans who sing her songs word for word. And then we have Mima, the regular girl, the one who listens to her music on the train, the one who goes to the grocery store to buy food for her fish. This Mima could go home to her studio apartment and stress about her life without any prying eyes. At least that's what she thinks until a fan, after her final concert, hands her a letter telling her about this website called Mima's Room. This letter also included a link to the site, and because at the time internet wasn't too big, Mima had no idea what the hell this letter was. She didn't know what a website was. She's like, I don't know what you're handing me, but I'll take it anyway. She also had no idea what Mima's Room actually was. So she ignores it, she heads home, she calls her mom, she's talking about the transition in her career. She's nervous but excited at the same time. But then she receives a fax. The word traitor is written all over it. Mima looks out her window, searches around, but there's no one there. This is the first incident where Mima seems a bit paranoid because she has no idea who gave her this letter. She has no idea who sent it to her. She has no idea who it could possibly be from. So the next day, while on set at her new acting job, Mima shows that fan letter she received after her last concert. She shows it to Rumi, and Rumi confirms that it's a link to a webpage called Mima's Room. And while all of this is happening, the actors on set are preparing for their new scene for Double Bind. Now, this plot segment on the show is about a serial killer who skins their victims in an attempt to impersonate them. Nobody on the show knows who the killer is, but it's assumed that the killer is skinning their victims in order to steal their identity. So while Mima is backstage meticulously rehearsing her one line that she has, the producer and the showrunner are going around handing out fan mail to the other actors and actresses. Turns out that one of the fan letters, was for Mima. So while her agent, Mr. Chirokuro, is talking to the showrunner and the producer about, establishing a larger role for Mima, the producer hands him the fan letter for Mima. Now, Mima's so nervous about her new gig, she doesn't even notice that the security guard from her concert is also working security on set. Now it's time to film a scene, and right as the producer yells action, an explosion rings out from backstage. Mima's neck whips around, she looks backstage, sees her agent, Mr. Chirokuro, fall into the floor. There's red all over him, it looks like he's bleeding. And it turns out the letter he had, the one intended for Mima, exploded when he opened it. There's also a note inside. Inside the letter is a threatening note saying, "Next time will be real." Now, this is the second time someone threatened Mima, so she's becoming a lot more paranoid, a lot more nervous. That letter had been intended for her, which means someone is trying to actively hurt her now. Mima wants to call the police, but Mr. Torokuro said that it's not necessary, it's just a prank, don't worry about it. And so she trusts him and she doesn't call the police. Rumi also tells Mima not to worry about it, that it's just a prank, and that she should move on with her life and not think too much about it. So instead of stressing about this so-called prank gone wrong, their main focus shifts to the new computer Mima just bought for herself. And the first thing she does when she sets up her new computer is type in the webpage to Mima's Room and see what the is going on. What is this Mima's Room everyone's telling me about? She's ready to go investigate. Finally, Mima starts scouring the webpage and she finds out that Mima's Room is a daily diary written by someone who's pretending to be Mima online. These diary entries are creepily accurate. They have information down to like what foot she uses first when walking off the train, down to the type of food she gets for her fish when she goes to the grocery store. They had pictures of her at her 21st birthday party, pictures of her with Sham, pictures of her leaving her last concert. Like it's getting creepy out here. This person even wrote down word for word what she said to Rumi the day on set. Like, Mima's low-key freaking out. She doesn't want to tell anyone she's freaking out, but she's low-key freaking out. She's having the worst time of her life. And now it becomes clear that Mima does in fact have a stalker. It's no shock that as these events progress, Mima is becoming increasingly more paranoid, and it's starting to affect her mood in everyday life. Like, she no longer wants to say hi to her fans anymore on the street, and she can't stop thinking about the weirdly specific details on Mima's room. So when someone bumps into Mima on the train and pushes her out the cart, she thinks that's her stalker making a move, so she books it. She runs to the building where she's supposed to meet up with Sham and her agent and Rumi. And when she steps in the elevator, she spots the security guard, the one who's in love with her, the one who's obsessed with her, the one who is on set and working the concert. She spots him down the hallway, they lock eyes, and as the elevator closes, Mima gets this weird feeling. but she doesn't say anything about it. Also, while she's on the elevator, she sees a newspaper article clipped to the wall, and it's talking about a hit and run. The photo attached to the article looks exactly like that guy at the concert who started a fight in the audience. Things are getting really weird. So Mima gets off the elevator. She enters the floor where Sham is celebrating their newest single hitting the top 100 charts for the first time. And she feels a little bad. She thinks she's missing out. But then she gets handed her script for next week's filming and she has a bit more lines. Part of her feels a little bad, part of her feels good that things are getting better, even though she is missing out on the achievements of her old life. So now it's time for Mima, Mr. Torokuro, her agent, and her manager Rumi to sit down and discuss the next steps of her career. Things are looking good, things are going well. Mr. Torokuro says that Mima's gonna get a larger part on Double Bind, but only under one condition. She has to film a rape scene. Now, Mima agrees to do it, but Rumi is fucking furious because she knows that if Mima films this scene, it's gonna ruin her chances of becoming a pop idol. And the reason for that is because K-pop and J-pop idols need to have a squeaky clean image, free of controversy. And the topic of rape is, or was, because it was 1997, it was very taboo at the time. So when Mima agreed to do this scene, she knew it would be very controversial. It would be very shocking to the audience. So this controversy would be potentially career ending. Mima is ready to do the rape scene. She wants to put in the work, she wants to do it. This is her new life and Rumi just kind of has to deal with it. So while Mima is on her way home from this meeting, she looks out the window and that's when she sees her. But it's not her, it's a hallucination of her. And this hallucination is outraged that Mima would film a scene that she feels Mima shouldn't have to do in order to become famous. Now this startles Mima because it's the first time that she ever hallucinated. Despite suffering from hallucinations, Mima does do the rape scene. And even though all the men on set were really nice, they're really kind, things went well, it still takes a mental toll on her. And to make matters even worse, when Mima gets home, all her fish are dead. This is like the straw that broke the camel's back. Mima trashes her room and finally she admits she didn't want to film the rape scene, she did not want to do it at all, but she only did it because she didn't want to let everyone down. For the second time, Mima hallucinates, and this time the hallucination berates her for doing a scene that they feel is beneath her. So while all this is happening, the security guard, the one who is working the show, the one who is working backstage on set at Double Bind, the one who was staring and smiling at Mima from down the hallway before she hopped on the elevator, he's in his room surrounded by posters of Mima. He's twiddling his little fingers while he types away on Mima's room, scouring the webpage. And apparently, the newest posts are saying that Mima didn't want to do the rape scene. She doesn't want to work on the show. We know that these posts are not written by Mima, but the security guard, for some reason, is convinced that they are. So when the rape scene airs, Mima's fans, they don't take well to it at all. The security guard, he is going out of his mind. He's so upset, he's pissed, he's distraught. Meanwhile, Mima's on Mima's room, she's going down the webpage and she sees a new entry. And this entry is begging for help. It's saying that she didn't want to do the rape scene. She doesn't want to work on the show anymore. Someone is making her do it. It's all the producer's fault. The post is saying that everyone is pushing her to become an actress. She doesn't actually want to be an actress. She wants to be a pop idol. This is all false. We know that because Mima said it herself that she wants to be an actress. But the person on Mima's room is making it seem like she's stuck in some contract, some Illuminati-styled entrapment and she can't get out of it. This post also claims that that rape scene that Mima didn't want to do was all the screenwriter's fault. So while Mima is freaking out because this person is spreading lies about her online, she's hallucinating again. And this time, the hallucination is making fun of her for doing a rape scene. They're like, bitch, you really fucked up. You're becoming a has-been before you can even become an it girl. Like, there's nothing I can do for you, and you're fucking up. You're tarnishing my name and my reputation. So imagine Mima's shock when she finds out that the screenwriter for the show was murdered the next day. And it's here, while on her way to set, where she tells Mr. Torokuro maybe the murder is connected to the exploding envelope. Mr. Torokuro is a bit skeptical, and it's here again where she hallucinates. This time, Mima hops out of the car to follow the hallucination. But surprise, surprise, there's no one there. And while the news spreads about the screenwriter's death, all of Mima's fans are talking, gossiping, kikiing about the latest post on Mima's room that apparently says Mima will be performing at Sham's next concert. So Mima's going on with her life. She's trying to ignore all this weird shit happening. She has another gig, and this gig is a photo shoot with a sleazy photographer who's famously known for getting models to pose nude. Mima does not want to be photographed nude, but she already agreed to do it, and again, she doesn't want to let everyone down, and it's becoming a lot more clear that Mima is a bit of a people pleaser. Besides, at that moment, they're already in the middle of the shoot, and it's here, while she's hiding in the washroom trying to stall from photographing nude like she knows what she's gonna have to do, she's visited once again by her hallucination. And this time the hallucination is telling her that she's better off being a pop idol and that nobody wants to see this side of her. At the same time, Sham is performing at their concert and they're joined on stage by this hallucination. Now, it's not clearly stated whether someone actually stepped on stage with Sham to do it, but you can see in their expressions that they look uncomfortable. They start shifting their eyes, they look a little weird, like, who is this bitch on stage with us? And that's where the implication comes that there is someone actually physically impersonating Mima as well. Finally, Mima's nudes are printed in a magazine, and this sends the security guard over the edge. Up until now, we were under the impression that he was just an obsessed fan, but it turns out the relationship goes a lot deeper than that. We learn that the security guard's name is Mr. Mimania, and he has been talking with this Mima impersonator through Mima's room the entire time. And because he's convinced that the impersonator is the real Mima, he thinks that everything he's being told, everything he sees on Mima's room is the truth. And to make things even more frightening, he's convinced that the Mima who wants to be an actress, the one on Double Bind, the one who posed nude, the one who did the rape scene, he thinks that Mima is an impersonator who's trying to tarnish his beloved pop idol's image. When Mima's nudes were printed, that was the last straw for him. And with a little bit of encouragement from Mima's impersonator through Mima's room, he developed a plan to get rid of actress Mima for good. The next time Mima is shooting a scene for Double Bind, the twist in the show is revealed. It turns out that Mima's character suffers from dissociative identity disorder, and they're committing these crimes to take on the identity of their victims. So Mima's on set doing her thing when she spots Mr. Mimania on set, and his presence startles her. Why? Because she keeps seeing this man everywhere she goes. Everywhere she turns, he's there. He's in the audience. He's on set. He's in the elevator. It becomes clear to Mima that this man is following her. And to make matters even worse, Mima can't stop hallucinating. Her hallucinations are following her everywhere, and at this point, Mima's grip on reality is starting to bend, and it's becoming harder for Mima to distinguish her reality from her delusions. Eventually, this causes Mima to develop psychosis. She starts zoning out while she's on set, and she begins to wonder if her reality is real or if she's just suffering hallucinations 24/7. The next day, Mima wakes up to the news that the sleazy photographer, the one who got her to pose nude, was brutally murdered. And since all these murders, the photographer, the showrunner, all these murders have a connection to her, so now there are rumors going around that Mima has something to do with the murders. So when she finds bloody clothes in her closet, she begins to think that these rumors are right. Maybe it is her. Maybe she is hallucinating and becoming a different person, just like her character on Double Bind. Maybe she is the murderer and she just can't remember it. Finally, it's Mima's last day on Double Bind, which means this nightmare she's been going through will all be over soon. And Double Bind wouldn't be a psychological thriller without a big twist. Turns out Mima's character was the murderer, and once again her worlds are colliding. So this is the plot of Double Bind. After Mima's character was raped, she suffered a mental break and went on a violent rampage. As a result, she developed DID and had been taking on the identity of her sister, who was a top model. Her character on the show had no idea that she was even committing these murders and thought these murders were just a plot line on a television show. But the television show didn't exist. Like, she was actually committing the murders, and she convinced herself that it wasn't real. So by the end of filming, Mima's enthralled. She's so happy they're done filming. She doesn't want to do this shit anymore. She's happy that she can just unwind now. She doesn't have to become this murderess. when she's on set. So Mima's exhausted by the time they finish filming, and she's happy to just put everything behind her. Rumi and Mr. Torokuro are waiting outside while she gathers her things. Mr. Torokuro said he's gonna head back to the office and get some things, and he asked Rumi if she can hang back to wait for Mima. So Mima gets her things, she's walking down the hallway, and that's when she's cornered by Mr. Mimania, who tries to rape and beat her. She grabs a hammer, hits him over the head, and she escapes. Rumi finds Mima limping through the hallway. She's like, girl, what the happened? What's going on? Mima's like, yo, this really tried to beat me. He really tried to rape me. Like let me show you where he is. His body's over there. He's knocked out. Like, I got away. I fought his ass off. Let me go show you where he is. But when they get there, his body's gone. Now, Rumi's been by Mima's side all along, and she thinks Mima is just suffering from exhaustion. So she's like, okay, girl, like, there's no one here. Let me take you back home to Mima's room. So Mima falls asleep. She wakes up in her room, and the first thing she does is call Mr. Torokuro. He doesn't answer because he's dead, and his body is laying right next to where Mimania's is hidden. And it's here where Mima notices something off about her apartment. Her fish are suddenly all alive. The sham poster she took off her wall earlier is hung up again. Her room, which was in complete disarray because remember she trashed it earlier? Yeah, now it's spotless. It's so clean, but she didn't clean it. And when she turns her head and spots train tracks outside of her window, Mima finally realizes that she's not in her apartment. She's in a replica of her apartment. And when a voice calls out from behind Mima, Mima turns around. She sees her hallucination in this frilly red dress, and this hallucination is telling her that it's gonna be her new dress for her next show as a pop idol. Except this hallucination wasn't a hallucination at all. At least it wasn't for Mima, because standing there in a frilly red dress pretending to be Mima was Rumi. And finally, the truth is revealed. Rumi has suffered a mental break and had been pretending to be Mima the entire time in an attempt to live out her pop idol fantasies after aging out of the industry. When Mima switched careers, Rumi snapped and had been murdering everyone who had been pushing Mima down the path of becoming an actress. On top of that, Rumi created Mima's room. She was the one conversing with Mr. Mimania online this entire time. And because Mr. Mimania was so obsessed with Mima, it was easy to convince him that the person online was actually Mima. Rumi fed into his delusions by creating this friendship with him and convincing him to do things like attempting to murder the real Mima. It's getting messy. And since Rumi was so deep into her delusion and actually believed that she was Mima, she convinced herself that the real Mima was an imposter. And now that they're all alone in Rumi's apartment in Mima's room, Rumi is going to do what Mimania couldn't, and that is to get rid of Mima for good. Mima books it, but Rumi does get a good couple stabs in while they race across town. At one point, they're standing in front of this giant glass window, and Mima rips off Rumi's wig to show her who she truly is. Rumi looks at her reflection, she freaks out because she's like, what the that's not me? Who the fuck is this imposter? She's so distraught that she runs out into the middle of the street as a truck is barreling down the road. But as she's doing that, she trips on a piece of glass and it impales her right through the stomach. She puts her wig back on. She's like, that's better. Like, this is who I know. And she immediately returns to her Mima personality. Rumi is so caught up in whatever the hell's going on in her head that she doesn't even notice the truck barreling down the road towards her. Instead, she mistakes the high beams for spotlight. So she goes out into the middle of the road and braces herself for this performance she thinks she's gonna put on. She has no idea that she's just seconds away from death. And even though Mima's injured, she uses the last of her strength, books it towards Rumi, pushes her out of the way, and she saves her life. The movie ends with Mima going to visit Rumi in the hospital. By now, Mima no longer suffers from psychosis and her acting career is flourishing. The doctor pulls Mima aside and explains to her that Rumi is still suffering from a mental break and she occasionally returns to her Rumi personality but mostly remains in her Mima personality. And because of Mima's newfound fame, two nurses in the hospital recognize who she is, and they're questioning if that's actually the real Mima that they see on TV, or if it's only a lookalike. When Mima gets in the car, she takes off her glasses, looks at herself in the mirror, and proudly proclaims that she is the real Mima. Now, there are a couple of important themes in Perfect Blue, but I'm going to talk about the main theme, which is obsession, of stan culture, of being completely obsessed with this person, this famous individual that you really don't know. And we see how prevalent it is in society today. Perfect Blue was made in 1997. The theme of obsession, of stan culture, is so relevant today. In Perfect Blue, we see obsession through Mima's fans, especially Mr. Mimania. They follow her wherever she is. They buy whatever she puts out. They consume whatever type of art she puts out into the world. And if she doesn't do what they want her to do, they get upset, which we see through her acting career. We see it through the nude photo shoot, through the rape scene. They get completely enraged as if they feel entitled to what Mima is doing. They feel entitled to Mima. And even though they do consume her art, even though they do support her, they only do it to feel closer to her. It's why they want her to be a pop idol so badly. As a pop idol, they can see her physically in front of her. They can go and see her. They can be near her. They can feel her aura, her presence. Whereas when she's an actress, they have that security net of her being on stage. They cannot go visit her on stage. They cannot see her perform like they can when she's a pop idol. As an actress, they lose that access to Mima. And instead of this glorious pop idol that they're used to, she becomes someone they don't know, someone they can't consume as easily. And this ties in directly to Rumi's obsession with Mima. Because of Rumi's past experience as a pop idol, her goal has always been to fulfill her own desires, to live out her fantasies through Mima. The moment Mima wanted to stray away from something Rumi wanted, Rumi couldn't handle it. And eventually her obsession grew until she wanted to become Mima by any means necessary. And it's almost like she thought she can become a better Mima than Mima could. As an actress, Mima took more responsibilities. She took on more opportunities, more risky opportunities to become the best actress she can be and to be taken seriously as an entertainer. But in fulfilling these duties like taking new photographs, doing rape scenes, it was tarnishing her reputation as a pop idol because it was getting rid of that pure, innocent image that she helped curate for herself in her previous career. And because Rumi's main goal was to take over Mima's life, she saw Mima as being destructive and selfish. The way Rumi saw it, Mima was squandering her opportunities. Rumi was so passionate about becoming a pop idol that she was willing to kill for it. So when she saw Mima doing this shit that would tarnish the reputation of a pop idol, she didn't think Mima was worthy of having these privileges. And by getting rid of all the people who were pushing Mima farther down the road of becoming an actress, Rumi believed she was doing the right thing. Further her plan, she was using the obsession that Mima's fans had for her against her. By creating Mima's room, Rumi was able to help keep that idol image together and remain playing this character that everyone knew and loved. And she also found a loophole to get whatever she wants. She was pretending to be Mima. She got all the fans, all the praise, all the adoration that she craved in becoming a pop idol, but she couldn't do it for herself. So she had to live out that fantasy through Mima. And I think this relates to Rumi's desire to be adored. She wants this praise. She wants this adoration. She wants to be a pop idol. She wants that fame. She wants to be obsessed over. She wants to be coveted, which is something she couldn't get after aging out of pop idol stardom. Rumi believed that with Mima in the picture, she couldn't achieve her dreams. She couldn't be the person that she coveted. Her dream self couldn't exist with Mima alive. So when she got a hold of Mr. Mimania, she was convinced that Mima, the actress Mima, was an imposter. And just like all of Mima's other fans, Mimania felt entitled to Mima. The only thing that separated him from everyone else were the one-on-one interactions he was having with Rumi through Mima's room. And because of these one-on-one interactions, he felt special. He felt like he was different, like he knew something about Mima that everyone else did not. Adding on to his sense of entitlement towards Mima. To him, he had a duty to protect Mima. He had a duty to protect this idol that he loved, this idol that was closer to him than anyone else. And the only way he knew how to fulfill that desire, the only way he knew how to save that idol he loved, was to get rid of the imposter trying to tarnish her image. Another important theme in Perfect Blue is identity. The whole journey of Mima's self-discovery and figuring out who she wants to be, what she wants to be, what she wants to do, getting rid of that people-pleasing attitude that she had throughout the whole film. Throughout the entire film, Mima is constantly bombarded with decisions that alter who she is. From leaving her profession as an idol to becoming an actress, to losing her sense of self, her identity as her psychosis takes over, Mima constantly struggles with determining the type of person or determining who she is at her core. In the beginning, we're introduced to pop idol Mima, the famous Mima, not quite A-list, more like B-list actress. You know, this Mima has adoring fans, people who want her autograph, people who follow her from show to show, from concert to concert, just to get that sense of her, just to be around her. And then we're introduced to the regular girl Mima, the Mima who goes to her apartment, the Mima who feeds her fish, the Mima who is nervous about this transition from being a pop idol to an actor, the Mima who is nervous about her future. And this is where one of her obstacles comes into play. She's nervous about becoming an actress, but she can't say it. So many people rely on her. She can't say no. And then for help, she turns to her manager and her agent, but she's also getting different opinions. One is saying go for acting, the other saying be a pop idol. Like, Mima doesn't know how to make a decision. She doesn't know what decision to make in her best interests. At the same time, because she's getting different answers, it's like she doesn't know who has her best interests. But by choosing to become an actress, we also see Mima choosing to become a different person. She is making a choice for herself. She's making a change. She's making a change. She's trying to be a new person, a new and better, more improved version of herself. In the second half of the movie, Mima struggles with identity become more psychologically based. The stress of her online impersonator, the stress of her having a stalker, the stress of someone following her, the stress of all these murders taking a toll on her, combined with the change in career, like it's all just a bit too much for her to handle. And all of this leads to Mima not knowing how to distinguish her reality from delusion. And at this point, she no longer knows who she is anymore. She doesn't know what goal she wants to pursue. She doesn't know what she wants to do. She's just in a state of confusion. And it takes such a mental toll on her that she's suffering from psychosis. She begins to question herself. These posts on Mima's room are strangely accurate. People around her are being murdered. She begins to wonder, at what cost is it to become an actress? Is it worth the death of all these people? Is it worth losing my mind? Is it worth turning into a murderer? And when the deaths on her show from the character she's playing start connecting with the real life, suddenly it's like Mima becomes scared of herself. She becomes scared of the person she's becoming. She becomes unsure if she's following the right path, and she wonders if her subconscious is trying to stop her from becoming this person that she thought was good but turns out isn't. At the same time, all this crazy shit starts happening when she becomes an actress. And maybe Mima associates all this stuff with her acting career. Mimania's stalking, the murders. Now it's like she's going down the wrong path. Now she's associating her new identity with fear. And she's scared of becoming someone she doesn't want to be. By the end, Mima's journey of self-discovery comes to a close. She finds out that Rumi was the one stalking her, the one impersonating her online. She finds out that it wasn't her doing all these horrible things. It was someone else. Someone else was driving her insane. She is no longer jealous about Sham's success because she's found her own. And this all comes to fruition when she goes to visit Rumi in the hospital. When Mima goes into her car, takes off her glasses, and proclaims that she is the real her, this symbolizes that she has come full circle. She knows who she is and she knows who she wants to be, and she has accomplished that. Mima in this point of her life has gone through every obstacle placed in her way. By the end, she no longer questions who she is or what she wants to do. She's sure of herself. There's no one in her ear trying to sway her to do something she wants to do or gaslight her into following a route that she no longer wants to take. She's healed. She's not suffering from delusions anymore. She's successful in her career. She knows what she wants. She is the real Mima, and when she looks at herself in the mirror and she proclaims that this is the real her, it's like she's reassuring herself of everything she went through. And she wouldn't be who she is without going through everything that she went through. However, let me say this. In one version, Rumi's voice is the one who says, yes, I'm the real her, which is supposed to be like a little twist, you know? It's supposed to be like, oh, does she really know who she is? Does she not? But I like to go with the version that I watched where it's Mima. Anyways, what did you think about Perfect Blue? Please let me know down below in the comment section. Follow me on TikTok, Instagram, X, Twitter, whatever, at sushisreads. Subscribe if you want. Look at my other videos. And I'll see you next time. Bye!